Hey everyone, it's Steven. Today I have the 2021 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. So this is the high performance variant of the iconic off-roader from Jeep, and as you can kind of see, this does have some unique styling that separates this from the normal Wrangler Rubicons that you see. And this has the famous naturally aspirated V8. This is the first time a V8 has been offered in the actual Wrangler, which is kind of crazy because it's been around for so many years now. People have been asking for a V8 for such a long time, and finally, due to competition from the new Ford Bronco, we're finally getting this awesome V8 in here. 470 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. This is an incredible, insanely crazy off-roading car. And the cool part is that, most people are going to be using this generally on the actual road itself, right? Like, I feel like, a lot of people buy this. I think I looked it up, and I think like 60% of people who buy Wranglers do off-roading. So there's a good 40% of people who never take this crazy vehicle off-roading. And because of that, it's very important to see how this car actually drives on normal, everyday roads. You can see that there's a few subtle differences here from between this and the actual normal Wrangler Rubicon. For example, you've got bronze accents kind of throughout the entire exterior, and you can see this really cool 392 badge. That's one of the first things you'll notice that separates this. You've also got the really cool, fully functional hood scoop in front of the vehicle, and of course you have some cool things like, of course, fully LED lighting in the front, and a raised suspension by about 2 inches with these really cool Fox shocks as well. The Rubicon 392 also only comes in the 4-door variant of the Jeep Wrangler. So it's always going to have a pretty boxy, large, imposing look on it. I can't imagine putting that 470 horsepower V8 in a 2-door Wrangler. That would be crazy, but also pretty fun. So you'll notice that this also doesn't have the Extreme Recon package. That is a $4,000 package, adds a lot of different things. Mainly you get larger tires. These are going to be a 33-inch tire on top of 17-inch wheels. Those are beadlock capable, and these tires, I believe, are the Falcon Wildpack Mud Terrain tires right now. So the Rubicon 392 MSRP is at just below $75,000. That is some insane money for a Wrangler Rubicon. But I mean, the regular Wrangler Rubicons with options can get up to something like $60,000 or $65,000. So if you're really wanting to, get the top of the line Wrangler Rubicon features, this does come with a lot of them, like the Alpine sound system, LED, fully LED taillights and headlights and everything like that. And you'll get all of that for $75,000. This can get a little higher though. For example, you've got the $2,000 soft touch, one touch option, which opens the entire sunroof in one automatic button, which is really, really nice. Very good for the convenience of, trying to take this off-roading, wanting to get a little bit more of an airy cabin. So with that one-touch soft top open option that is $2,000, this car comes at to an MSRP of about $77,000. Again, a ton of money, but you get a very, very cool and unique car for that. This bright white exterior color, is literally just called bright white, is a no-cost option. Some of the other colors, like the fun blue ones you see, that pink one, those are going to be about $250, which really isn't too much money. I do kind of wish this wasn't a different color. I do feel like black looks really nice with the bronze accents for the 392. But in general, whatever color you get for this vehicle is going to look really good. You can kind of see that this white bright color does get dirty very easily, so you do want to make sure you can take this through the car wash pretty much as you want. In addition to the high cost of this car, you're also going to be really hurting with the fuel economy. This car gets very abysmal fuel economy. 13 city, 17 highway, and 14 combined miles per gallon. Very, very low, and this is really a gas guzzler. On a full tank, about 20 gallons, you only get something like 300 miles of range. So obviously this car is not going to be something you want if you want a fuel economy car. All right, so let's jump into the important part about this car. Obviously, that crazy 6.4 liter Hemi V8. So if you're wondering why this is called the Wrangler Rubicon 392, it's 392 cubic inches. That is the 6.4 liter engine. So taking a look in this engine bay, you can see very, very crowded. Obviously, they needed to cram a lot of different things in here. I would hate to be the mechanic who needs to work on something in here. But yeah, you can see really cool things like the air intake. And I mean, this engine is just such a legendary engine and makes such exciting sounds. You can take a listen right here. And to round off the rest of the exterior of this car, it really does look very similar to your normal Jeep Wrangler. The cool part about this is that it really won't attract too much attention aside from that crazy exhaust note, obviously. And you know, kind of going along the sides, you can see a lot of that bronze trim. You've got the bronze outline of the Rubicon, the 392. You've got the bronze accents on the steel bumper in the front, and of course, you know, on the actual Jeep logo and stuff like that. The sides of the car are really not going to look too different from your normal Jeep Wrangler. Again, this is lifted 2 inches with those Fox shocks, and of course this has massive mud terrain tires. Going into the rear here, you've got your spare tire going to be massive, pretty much the exact same thing. And you know, really it looks very similar to your normal Jeep Wrangler. So it's kind of cool. I personally like that. I think that it keeps it a little more, you know, subtle, but also very fun, of course. You do have quad tailpipes. That is the one difference, which is always really cool to see. I was looking at the new Ford Bronco Raptor and I didn't see quad tailpipes, which disappointed me a little bit. So going into the actual rear of this car, you can open it. It's pretty much like normal Jeep Wranglers. You've got the bottom trunk that you can open, and then you've got the actual mirror in the back that you have to lift up. And you've got 31.7 cubic feet of cargo space. So obviously this is going to be a spacious cabin, of course, right? This is what you expect from something like a Jeep Wrangler, right? A lot of cabin space and, you know, everything you need to have your off-roading adventures. All right, let's jump into the interior of this 2021 Wrangler Rubicon 392. You can kind of see at a glance the door panels don't look the greatest, but I mean, you wouldn't expect much from a Wrangler. You do have some nice leather armrests here with that bronze contrast stitching that you'll find throughout the cabin as well. You do have a door handle. Of course, this is a very tall vehicle, so very hard to get into. You don't actually have a you know, footrest to get on, so you have to grab this and pull yourself in, which isn't the most comfortable thing. But going into the cabin is not the most quiet thing. Obviously, you've got that soft touch, or the soft top, so it's going to be a little loud, and that is the button to automatically open that with one touch, that $2,000 option I mentioned before. Taking a quick glance around the cabin, you can kind of see not going to be the highest quality material, but it is going to be pretty nice for a Wrangler, right? Most Wranglers, you imagine that kind of rugged exterior, but here you've got some pretty nice leather everywhere. These seats, I will say, are very comfortable. They're well bolstered. You've got the really gorgeous Rubicon 392 badging here. This is one of the few places that it mentions 392, right? There's really not that many places that show you this is different from a normal Wrangler Rubicon, but this is a really nice bronze, you know, stitching here. You've got the contrast stitching on these seats as well. It looks very stylish. You do have some pretty nice materials throughout the cabin as well. Stylish little hold bar right here. And you know, the center stack looks exactly the same as the normal Wrangler, or Wrangler Rubicon, so you're not going to find too many different things. I do love this bronze contrast stitching on the steering wheel though, and there are some really nice touches here and there throughout the cabin. So you do have a digital display in the middle of your gauge cluster. Obviously, they're probably not going to move to a fully digital display for quite a while, considering this is really meant to be more of that off-roading feel, right? You do have the 8.4-inch top-of-the-line Dodge Uconnect system. This is a very fantastic system. It's so easy to use, and I mean, like, this is really how I feel about Dodge, Jeep, you know, all those sort of things, and Stellantis. It's a great system, very easy to use. This is very responsive. Everything is really fast, and you know, just going through the system, everything is intuitive, and I think that's a really important part of this vehicle is that, you know, the infotainment system shouldn't be difficult, because this is not a car that you're buying for like fancy tech, right? You do have a cool forward camera here, which is really nice. You can kind of choose which one you want to look at, and you are able to drag some of these apps to, you know, these quick buttons at the bottom. So pretty cool, nice features to have, and overall, you know, this is going to be a pretty nice system. You do have heated steering wheel right here with this button, and you have three-way power heated seats as well. All of your window controls are obviously in the middle, just like, you know, the normal Jeep products you would expect. This is all physical buttons, pretty easy to use, pretty intuitive as well. And then you've got parking sensors as well right here. Only for the rear though, no front parking sensors unfortunately, but you do have that forward camera, which helps in terms of you know, parking. You do have a media control right here, so you have some USB slots, you have a lightning, and you've got normal USB there, an aux cable, and of course some of the more Jeepy off-roady things here. You do have off-road plus mode, and you have a sway bar disconnect. You've also got the axle locking feature right here, which will also help with your off-roading capabilities. And of course you have some nice, you know, Easter eggs where you've got the Jeeps on different parts of the vehicle, right? Notice that the thing right here is also a Jeep. Right here, also a Jeep. You know, Jeeps everywhere. Very, very cool. And then of course here you've got your transfer case controls here. So you have 4 high auto, and then 4 high part-time, neutral, and then 4 low. So really most people are going to be using 4 high auto most of the time for your normal driving. So really this kind of stays stationary. You do have bronze stitching here as well, which is really nice. And you've got 2 great sized cup holders with some rubber things to help keep things in control. You do have this interesting area right here where you can kind of put a phone or something like that. And then you've got bronze stitching on your parking brake as well. So overall, pretty nice center console, center stack area. This is going to have 1 level for you to put some other belongings, and then inside you can put a lot more things. And there you've got another USB slot as well. You do have paddle shifters on this one, which is really interesting. So that's definitely going to be something you don't find in the normal Wrangler Rubicon. And really, they're not the best in terms of responsiveness. You kind of hit it and then there's like a delay until you actually upshift or downshift. So I didn't find too much fun with them. Honestly, the engine sound is fantastic when you're just using your normal automatic transmission. So, you know, definitely don't see a reason to do too much there. This system in the middle here, we do have adaptive cruise control on the steering wheel controls, and it's a pretty responsive system. I really do like how you can program what shows up in, you know, all of these corners. It works out pretty nicely. I feel like this setup right here I have works out very nicely for myself. You don't have some interesting things like rain sensing windshield wipers. You do have automatic high beams, which I find pretty interesting. That's always something that, you know, I would expect to only have in, you know, more of a luxury vehicle. And then you have your light controls on the side, and this one right here is really interesting because this is your ambient lighting, quote, quote, ambient lighting, which is actually just going to be footwell lighting. That's literally all it is. You do also, unfortunately, only have manual seat controls for everything. I can't remember the last vehicle I drove with this, especially an $80,000 vehicle. You can use this to, you know, move the seat forward and stuff like that. This one will move it up and down, lumbar support, and then of course you've got the little lever right here to move the seat back and forth. You do have some all-weather floor mats right there, which obviously can get quite dirty, but you know, that's very important for an off-roading vehicle like this. Very easy to wash. These seats, I actually really do have to say, they are very comfortable. I really enjoyed using them for a while, and they're comfortable. And then of course in the side mirrors right here, you do have blind spot monitoring, so that's a pretty standard piece of tech that I would expect in a car like this. And then climbing into the rear seats, you've also got grab handles here, which is nice. And you know, the same floor mats in the back. You do have some storage for some various items, and you do have a power outlet here as well. Nothing too much to note back here. These are comfortable seats though. Like overall, like this is definitely not a bad place to be. Very spacious, right? This is with the seat moved very far forward, but you have tons of space, great headroom, and especially if you open that sunroof, it would feel very, very nice, obviously in the summer though. But yeah, otherwise, like, these are very comfortable seats still. You've got great support. You've got headrests on all 3 seats, and you know, of course, you have your center as well, which you can kind of lay down. And you've got your cup holders, and also some more storage in here as well. One last thing I need to note, of course, given that this is the Rubicon 392, is this button. This is the Performance Exhaust On button. This makes the car go from crazy loud to pretty quiet, actually. If you turn it off, you'll see the Performance Exhaust Off shows right there, and then you can turn it back on. It is a huge noticeable difference. Right now with the mic, you might not be able to hear it too much, but I guarantee you it is a very different sound. And you know, it's one of those things where it's actually great because with it on, it is so loud and it sounds incredible. But you know, if you're driving through a neighborhood, or you know, maybe with kids in the car or something like that, and you don't want to wake them up all the time, having this off really does make a huge difference. All right, guys, let's take this out on the road and see what it's like to drive. So I've been driving this around the Chicago area for the last 2 days, and I have to say, it's been a lot more fun than I expected. So initially driving this vehicle, I saw the reviews talking about how the handling is, you know, absurd and like kind of scary and stuff like that. And I was a little worried that like I just wouldn't be able to control this or have fun with a vehicle this heavy and this powerful. But really overall, I've had a blast. I mean, this has been so much more fun than I expected. And the handling, of course, is not good. Like it's not going to handle like a sports car or even a sports sedan or whatever, a sports SUV, but like it is still so much fun. I mean, being able to muster up that horsepower and torque really at, you know, just any speed, it is just a frighteningly fast car. And I really think more people, like, I don't know, I don't think this is as hard to drive as some people make it out to be. So I don't know, personally, that wasn't a huge issue to me. If you've driven this car, let me know how you felt about it. But you know, I mean, like, that sound, it just fills the cabin. It does not hold back, and that's with the performance exhaust on, obviously. And it's a fantastic sounding vehicle. It's intoxicating. I have to say that's the biggest thing, right? Is like just driving around in this thing is so much fun, and you're not going to get that really fun, you know, obviously like sporty handling that you would expect in most sports cars, but you are going to get a lot of, you know, nice exhaust notes, and I think a lot of people really like that. It's a V8, it's a naturally aspirated V8, right? It's not a sound that you'll hear much anymore, honestly. And overall, this is just such a cool car to drive around. It's crazy. Like, this is one of those vehicles that will never fail to put a smile on your face. That sound that just fills the cabin, and, you know, even if you're only going 0 to like 40 or something like that, it's so fast and incredible that you have a Jeep Wrangler that can do that, you know? I think that's ultimately the thing, is like, this is a car that people expect to be kind of slow, kind of sluggish, right? You take it off-road, it's fun, you know, typical things like that. But this car just exceeds all expectations, I think, and like, people just don't realize how cool of a car this is. And that is, I think, one of the coolest parts about driving this car, is that it's subtle, like, surprisingly, right? Like, there's not too much 392 badging on the actual vehicle itself, and aside from that monstrous exhaust note, most people will not know the difference. So this is one of those things that, you know, you can smoke most sports cars at a stoplight, stop sign, whatever, and it's so cool, right? Like, you imagine a normal like Dodge Challenger coming up next to you, right, doing some crazy revs, and you know that you can definitely floor it right past them. And I think that's kind of a cool trick to kind of keep up your sleeve. So the eternal dilemma with this car is that if you're doing mostly highway driving or city driving, and you're not taking this off-roading that much, should you even buy a Wrangler? In my opinion, no, right? Like, it's an interesting vehicle because it has such a following, but if you want a comfortable car, there are many, many better choices. But if you are going to go off-roading, right, this is legendary in that area, right? You have competitors like the Ford Bronco, obviously the new one that just came out. I'm very curious to see how the Bronco Raptor stacks up to this. But, you know, otherwise, like, this is going to be that trusty vehicle that you can go off-roading, doing crazy mud crawling, all that sort of stuff, right? You have available tech and all that sort of cool stuff for that, and no other cars have that sort of thing except for things like the Ford Bronco. So this is a very unique car in that aspect. But of course, with the fuel economy, the crazy performance of this car, this does enhance the on-road aspect a little bit, but like on freeways, you have to do minor corrections all the time while you're driving, right? Like, you never feel like you're at peace. It's hard to drive this car with one hand. It doesn't feel comfortable. It's loud. The 9-speaker Alpine sound system is not that great, which is really unfortunate considering the price point of this car. But honestly, with the limitations of this cabin and the chassis and the off-roading aspect of this car, they just couldn't make a sound system that sounds that great. Very bass heavy, so, you know, obviously some people like that stuff, but for the average listener, if you want accurate sounds, this is not going to be the vehicle for you. But, you know, overall, it's just such an interesting vehicle because it has such an interesting demographic in terms of the buyers, and you know, people are looking for a specific thing, and there are definitely better vehicles out there that suit certain purposes like highway driving and city driving. But if you really want that crazy sound and the very unique sound that you're really not going to get in many other vehicles these days, this is one of the few cars that can give you all of that. Off-roading prowess, crazy engine. It is versatile in that aspect. So, you know, it really comes down to you and whether you want to spend $80,000 on a car like this. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk through today. I have loved this vehicle, and honestly, if you want a crazy vehicle like this, I say go for it. It is a lot of money, but you get an extremely unique car, and I think it will never, you know, cease to put a smile on your face, and that's important, right? So I've really enjoyed having this car for quite a while. If you want to check out my other videos, you can subscribe up here, check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.